There we go. Sound. Oh, my goodness. Sorry about that, folks. My Streamlabs showed me the wrong thing on my mixer. I don't like this mixer. I'm going to have to go with the one that Yanni's been recommending for me. Well, folks, welcome into Indaba Africa. This is Chris coming to you live from central Pennsylvania, here in the midst of the Wuhan coronavirus COVID-19. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, surviving the political hysteria, the totalitarian march of the leftists and progressives who seek to turn us all into serfs to do their bidding, be allowed to do what they want us to do when they want us to do it, and that's it. By the way, I was saying that looks like I must have brushed my hair properly today. Look at that. Wow, it's actually sitting in place. Whatever I figured out, I'm going to have to repeat it for the next time because that looks pretty good, actually. Welcome, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Glad to have you here on Indaba Africa. Whether you're in the Republic of Ireland, somewhere in Great Britain, in the hills of Snowdonia, or somewhere in the Midlands. Perhaps you're up in the Highlands in Scotland, or maybe you're down in Kent in southeast England. For those who find themselves on the verge of the Zuiderzee, somewhere in the Netherlands, in the Norddeutsche Tiefebene, wherever you find yourself in the Alps this week, on this lovely July 22nd, 2020. Beautiful day here on the eastern seaboard of the United States. Welcome, welcome, welcome to everybody. Dumela Botswana, Otsihili Jang, Kitsihili Sedley, Kelabo. Sawubona, South Africa. How is everybody doing out there? Let's get straight to it. Benjamin sees the Stormers jersey. Yeah, I've been getting a little too much ribbing about being a Stormers fan, and I haven't even worn the Stormers jersey in a while. So it was time, ladies and gentlemen, time to put the Stormers jersey back on. Yes, I know that Sia Khaleesi is disappointing us, and he is a Stormer. But perhaps it's because he's from Eastern Cape, where people are a little confused. No digs on people in the Eastern Cape. But anyway, so yeah, welcome on. Let me say hello to everybody in the chat. Catch up on that before we get too far down. Rainier was here first. So China bought Iran today. Will the CIA and Mossad stop the cyberborn? That's a good question. These explosions taking place in Iran are pretty scary, and there's no media coverage of whatsoever. Call waiting, Anton LaRue says. The Game Wizard's here. Hey, Ranger Jakes, welcome. I'm well, thank you. Petrus Osthuizen, HBM Air, long time, so busy at work. Well, I'm glad you're busy at work, HBM Air. That's a good sign. Karen said there was no sound. That was my fault because I had it up so you wouldn't hear the sound, and then it showed me the wrong thing. Thanks, Chris Badenhorst. We fixed it. I didn't see your message, Chris, that was supposed to trigger me. I missed something in my email. Willem Janse von Rensburg says, hey, peoples. Let's see what else. Okay, what else we got there? Catching up now. Jacques is here. Good to see you, Jacques. Practicing your lip reading from time, so it's all good. There you go. Yeah, this is a free lip reading lesson, ladies and gentlemen. That was the problem with the sound. Today, we are going to cover South Africa's 12th official language, sign language. That's right, yes. Remember the guys at the Mandela funeral? The disgraceful, fake, lip syncing, all that stuff. Guy just making stuff up, getting paid a ridiculous amount of money, and the government with no oversight whatsoever, not even checking this person. Petrus says, almost had you with the rugby jersey. Oh, with the video. Did you like that video, Petrus? Was that a good video? It wasn't meant to be a tease. Hendo loves this rugby top. Benjamin loves it. Cool. Port Alfred and Eastern Cape. Welcome, Peter C. Jealousy makes them nasty. Yeah. Where is the Springbok from the bottom shelf? He's still there. Springbok's still there. No Easter eggs today. I don't think there's any Easter eggs. Let's see if I didn't put any Easter eggs up there today. We have a second stream for the Night Owl edition coming later. Maybe there'll be a Easter egg on the shelf then. Yanni's here. Welcome, Yanni. Chris Badenhorst, did you receive my email? I had not as of last night. Maybe you send it afterwards. I'll have to go back and check. Or maybe I respond to every email that I received. So I was all caught up last night. So maybe I didn't get. I'll check my junk box. It shouldn't be there because I've gotten messages from you in the past, Chris. Thought the 12th language was BS. Hendo, that's a good one. The 12th language BS. Folks, have you heard that the United States has ordered that the Chinese consulate in Houston be closed? Yeah. And so Beijing is losing its mind. That's right. Well, that is a prerogative of Washington to allow a consulate to be there. We have consulates all over South Africa, all over Germany, in countries where we have large concentrations of Americans. We tend to have multiple consulates because consulates are there to provide services to citizens. They also process visa applications for those who would like to travel to a country, but their primary purpose is to meet the overseas diplomatic needs and citizenship services for citizens and permanent residents. So that's what they're for. But the U.S. orders closure of Chinese consulate in Houston. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. So here we go. Let's pull this one up very quickly. Where is my browser at? There we go. Right. U.S. orders closure of Chinese consulate in Houston. Notice I'm looking at CNN. Ooh, I even checked that website. The United States government has abruptly ordered China to cease all operations and events at its consulate in Houston, Texas, according to the Chinese Foreign Ministry, in what it called an unprecedented escalation in recent actions taken by Washington. U.S. state, yeah, unprecedented. What about poisoning the world with Wuhan coronavirus there, China? Huh? What about not shutting down travel from your country to prevent it from escaping? What recent escalation? It's kind of hard to escalate any more than that disaster. U.S. State Department spokesman Morgan Ortega said the consulate was directed to close in order to protect American intellectual property and Americans' private information, but not immediately provide additional details on what prompted the closure. Yeah, there you go. So the Chinese stealing intellectual property is the basis or the argument for closing that consulate. Yeah. My question is, how many Chinese are in Texas? What the hell are they doing in Texas? California? Okay. Chicago, New York, I get. Texas? What are they doing in Texas? Are they hanging out at Baylor? Texas A&M? They learning about agriculture? Are they stealing intellectual property from there? Interesting question. Yep. Errol's here. Welcome, Errol. Welcome coming over. Hey, the Roman stream, I watched that. That was interesting, although I disagreed with some of the chat, but that's fine. People disagree with me. I disagree with them. That is the elixir of discourse, disagreement. People are welcome to disagree. The cutting of the springbok is a protest against it is, Peter, but it's, well, wait a second. Which springbok did kneeling? Sia Khaleesi made a statement, made a video in which he essentially told us everything he said about being a Springbok captain and being a Springbok for the past 18 months was a lie because he perpetuates some nonsense and talked about all this stuff. And I discussed that in the video where I think that his argument falls flat in many respects. He doesn't expect, see, based on his video, now I don't think this is a real view. I think that he's just been bought and paid for by the company he's working with Jay-Z now. But it's a sellout. That's unfortunate. But after achieving such heights and not even being the best at his position, yet still being on the team. Still a fan of his, but he wasn't the best. He was better a couple seasons ago before injuries. He's not as good as he once was, yet he was on that team and he was the captain, which was a good decision, I thought, for the team. But now this betrayal, this dishonesty, this selling out, I question all that because basically he abrogated everything that he said for the last 18 months with his video. But his video wasn't about taking a knee. His video was supporting Black Lives Matter. And I think the gentleman's just confused about who they are, what their objective is, and what that movement's all about. And so I disagree with him. Also, it's highly inappropriate for the captain of the national side to come out like that. He's demanding that people listen to his plight for when he was growing up in rugby. Let me read these notes from the video. Sia Khaleesi said that while growing up, he often felt that his life didn't matter and explained how he needed to assimilate into a culture that was not his. Well, welcome to the world, Sia. Try being an Igbo child in a Yoruba neighborhood in Nigeria. Try being a Venda who grows up in Pretoria amongst Afrikaans speakers. Try being a white Afrikaans speaker in Northwest, surrounded by Setswana speakers. Grow up. Grow up. I had to conform to the culture to feel accepted and welcomed. Oh, so you had to conform to be part of the in-group. See, yeah, that's what everyone does growing up. That's what life is all about. Those who don't conform sit outside groups, and that's their choice. Or maybe it's not their choice. Maybe they're ostracized. But the point is that that's just the nature of growing up. Once he arrived to the world of rugby, he thought that he would be able to be himself. However, he says that he had to conform in this world too. As I recall, Sia didn't have any shoes, and someone paid for his scholarship, and then he later went to Grey College and lived a life pretty comfortable. So what are you conforming to? Did conforming to this world require you to marry a white, Afrikaans-speaking South African? Was that a requirement too? When I first got into the Springbok environment, everything was done in Afrikaans, and I couldn't speak Afrikaans at all. Well, yeah. When I considered applying to the University of Mainz, my German wasn't adequate to attend university, and hence I decided not to go and be part of that team. But I did learn German because I was in that culture. The calls were in Afrikaans. I had to translate them from Afrikaans to English to Xhosa. Well, what about the English-speaking white South Africans and black South Africans who don't speak Afrikaans, who play rugby? They have to learn as well. The Tswana speakers, they have to learn. It's just part of the culture. Does Sia expect all the line-out calls to be done in Xhosa? Is that what he wants? And how is that right? How is demanding things change to suit your needs make it fair to everyone? It doesn't. There are certain norms and mores in life, and there are traditions, and there's nothing wrong with a tradition. I love how people call for equality when they want superiority. Not equality, but superiority. It was really hard. I'm sorry, Sia. I reacted late and felt stupid and embarrassed, he added. And my culture wasn't there. Well, yeah. How many Cossack kids grow up playing rugby? Of course it's not there. They play soccer. If they want to play rugby, then they should play rugby. Then it will be part of the culture. But traditionally, historically, it has not been. If you want to be part of Cossack culture, then get out in the Eastern Cape, Sia, and set up leagues for youth. Teach them how to play. Develop officials. Fund leagues. Give away tickets to rugby games so that kids have interest in it. Don't sit here and make videos about Black Lives Matter in which you distort and mislead. That's shameful. We're representing South Africa, but I didn't feel like it was valued enough. I just had to be grateful to be there. Then please tell me, Sia Khaleesi. Now, I'm not going to play the clip right now, but please tell me, why is it when Nkosi Sikelel' Africa is played, why is it that when you get to the Afrikaans and the English portions of the national anthem, you sing with such fervor, such emotion? Now, you're a terrible singer, as am I, so I won't criticize you for your terrible vocal skills because they're horrible, like mine are. That's why I know that it's you, because I can hear you caterwaulering while you're trying to sing the anthem. But out of respect, since you're showing respect to the anthem, I've never commented on that before. When I sing the anthem, I'm caterwaulering, so you comment on me as well. But Sia Khaleesi, when the Afrikaans portion comes up, you sing it, raising your head up, exposing your throat, singing to the heavens as if you fully believe that this is the Rainbow Nation concept and you buy into the anthem. And then you turn around and make a video after you sign with a company that endorses a movement that's involved in social disruption and domestic terrorism here in the United States. You make a video supporting that group and then essentially denying everything you've told us for 18 months about being a Springbok. That's disingenuous. And that's unfortunate. He said he didn't feel that he could speak out and ask that things be done differently until the last few years. Really? Well, you haven't spoken out the last few years. Through the build-up to the World Cup, the winning of the William Webb Ellis Trophy, the victory tour in South Africa, you never talked about these things that you're claiming about now. It's only when political opportunism opened the doorway and the leftist progressive domestic terrorist organizations in the United States were in position with their resources on hand from wealthy billionaires who seek to undermine the global order. Only then did a little-known, unknown, former criminal get murdered by an out-of-control, previously disciplined, multiple incident Minneapolis police officer, and the city of Minneapolis failed to sanction, discharge, or fire this person. Only then, after Minneapolis caused this situation, and that was used as an excuse to light cities aflame, to tear down history, to burn books, to attack people in the streets. Only then do you associate yourself with this. Black Lives Matter has been around for several years. This is a leftist organization encouraged by Barack Hussein Obama to undermine legitimacy of political governance in this country. Where were your comments the last 18 months? Or were you more concerned about jeopardizing your position as the Springboks captain and your position on the team to even play during the Rugby World Cup, Sia? Very disappointing, my friend. Very disappointing. But you're welcome to come on Chris White Africa, Sia Khaleesi. Happy to debate you. I'll treat you with respect, and I'll ask you your motivation for this. Perhaps you have a reason, but the video doesn't give us a legitimate basis for it. Very disappointing. For those who watch my video, you'll notice that I did not cut up my jerseys. I'm not going to cut up my jerseys because somebody starts playing foolish. That's silly. I'm not going to do it. Too much money spent in those. Plus, it'd take me a long time to cut them all up. Let me see what else we got here. Okay, let me catch up. Goodbye, China. Sorry, Karen. I'm exiled abroad, out of touch. William says, they have been bleeding you dry, Chris. Oh, yeah, for the uniforms. Yeah, I paid a lot for those things. It was my kit. I got a lot of kit, don't I? But that's over years, guys. It's not like I bought them all at once. I'd be bankrupt if I bought them all at once. I bought those for many years. The cricketeers were kneeling. Yeah. Okay, well, that's cricket. That's not the Springboks. They're not even playing right now. So unless they're making some stupid video in their backyard where they're taking a knee, which is silly. Why do people subjugate themselves to others? We strive for equality in this world. We strive for people being treated fairly. Why would anybody openly, willingly take a knee and demonstrate fealty to someone else? The days of monarchy are gone. Yes, I know there are monarchies still around, but they're not true monarchies. They don't actually rule countries, with the exception of perhaps Eswatini, the e-commerce capital of Africa, the former Swaziland. Errol still has his kit. Good for you. Even IR says BLM is Marxist. Yeah, they are. That's right. Luke, the lead singer. Got a typo there. That's an interesting way to spell my name. Chris. Hey. Afrikaans used to be in games so the opponents could not understand. Exactly. The only country that the South Africans play against that has players who use Afrikaans these days is the Velviches from Namibia. Zimbabwe used Afrikaans for a bit many, many years back, but they don't anymore. So the only country they would have to worry about someone getting the calls and understanding what's going on would be the Namibians. No one else speaks Afrikaans. I may have a few players on this team or that team who fled from South Africa to play elsewhere, but yeah, no. Errol says, I read Animal Farm. Since then, I've been against the communists. Well, good for you. That's a long time to be anti-communist. I've been anti-communist since I was a young man, so probably since about 1975. I do not believe the whole Afrikaans thing. He's lying. I agree, too, though. Absolutely true. Think about all the people who were conscripted into the South African Defense Force who were forced to learn Afrikaans because basic training is conduct Afrikaans. They learned, or they did more push-ups. Hello, Anne-Marie Jenkins. Life is a challenge. If you can't handle it, leave. Ooh, there's a statement. Try being Republican in a blue state. Yeah, gotcha, S.J. Wheeler. Gotcha. This state here is sort of blue. Not really a red state, Pennsylvania. It's more of a purple state, but it's been more blue for a long time because of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. But I don't live in an area where it is like that. I live in a conservative area where people safely put flags up calling for Trump to be reelected and Republican candidates to run for office. So, and they're safe to do that. Although I did see somebody paint their mini SUV, their Kia Sportage the other day, outside a Walmart lot with Black Lives Matter all over it. Funny how nobody attacked that vehicle, but I'll bet you if it had Trump on it, the person that put that in their car would probably willing to attack the Trump vehicle. Did you ever experience the national anthem Volt, Errol? You're talking about under the old Republic. Yes, yes, I'm familiar with it. Adapt or die. Just remember, karma is a blixen that will catch them. Yeah. I think somebody's paying him to talk that crap, thinking open society. Yeah, Willem, yesterday someone, Jacques or somebody said that he was, maybe if I misspoke, Jacques, my apologies, but I think it was you that said, maybe it was someone else that said he was working for that company that Jay-Z has started, which pours money into the BLM movement. So, yeah, he signed a contract with him a couple months ago. Peter, I don't understand how the hell do I supposed to spell it? What, Chris? C-H-R-I-S. Lezan, welcome. Some trade freedom for safety. Assam, welcome, Assam. Quite. Can you speak any different languages apart from English, of course? Well, yes, Assam. I guess you're new to the channel. I speak 6 languages. I'll catch back up on the chat here, but this is for Assam. So, yes, I do speak 6 languages, 3 of them fluently. In fact, I've been mistaken for a national for one of the languages, and I'll talk about that. So I speak English, German, French, Afrikaans, Setswana, Swahili, to varying degrees. The ones I speak fluently, of course, are English, German, and French. German was my second language. I learned it self-taught, then took university classes to learn the grammar. And I used to, when I'm in Germany and I spend time there, I very quickly fall back into an accent, which I learned in my youth, that I don't even realize. And I'm mistaken for someone from the Frankfurt area, from the state of Hesse, because of the dialect that I speak without even realizing it. So yeah, no, I speak German. Und also ich da schon seit über 30 Jahren, seit ich Deutsch selbst gelernt. Ich habe mich selbst gelernt, die Sprache Deutsch. Ja, sicher. Es war ziemlich interessant. Es macht viel Spaß, also die Sprache zu lernen. Und für mich war es viel einfacher, Deutsch, also am Anfang mit Deutsch zu anfangen, weil es war viel einfacher als andere Sprachen, zum Beispiel Russisch oder Serbokratisch oder yeah. Anyway, so there's a little bit of German. Et le langue français, j'ai appris le langue français en Californie en 2000 pendant 6 mois à les instituts des études étrangères en Californie par le département de la France. Oui, c'est longtemps. J'étais ensuite stagiaire à l'école d'état-major à Tunis, à Bado. C'est vraiment intéressant parce que tous les stagiaires sont les Tunisiens et quelques étrangers comme Nigériens et Mauritaniens et les Italiens et moi. C'était intéressant, mais tout le cours, on doit faire le cours en français. Ce n'était pas facile pour moi parce que j'ai juste appris le langue et ensuite, quelques semaines, je suis devenu Stagiaire, ce n'était pas facile. Yeah. Gina Langoni Chris. Mimi Anaka. Pennsylvania. Oui. Yeah, anyway, so we could go on and on. Yes, Assam, I speak 6 languages. I read the news in English, German, French, and I do it in Afrikaans, but I struggle a little bit for that. Not because the language is so hard to read, but because all the news sites are behind paywalls now. It used to be free, but I'm not paying paywalls when I'm only going to use them periodically. So yeah, I read the news around the world. I read French newspapers. I read Swiss newspapers. I read, also understand some Italian, but I won't pretend to be able to speak it, but I can get by with phrases and such because I lived in Italy. So sort of, I could count Italian, but I don't, and that would make it 7. Yeah, no, I speak languages. It used to be funny because when I worked at the Defense Intelligence Agency, this was after 9/11 when I came back from Tunisia, and people would always be talking about English as a national language because, embarrassingly, the United States is the only industrialized country in the world that does not have a national language. We don't have a national language, not an official language. English is the de facto language, but it's not protected, and now it's being under assault by Spanish, which is shameful. But so I would go work out at lunchtime. I'd run wintertime. I'd come back in the newly refurbished kitchen or little like restaurant cafe they had there for lunch for employees. And I'd see workers I knew. I'd come over and sit down. And there'd these conversations. Oh, English should be our national language. No, it's not. That's racist. That's bigoted. So, of course, I jumped into conversation. I said, well, of course English should be our national language. Well, you're just a typical American. You're too lazy to learn a language. No, I speak several languages. At that time, I didn't learn Setswana yet, but I'd run through the list of languages I spoke. Or no, I'd say I spoke several languages, and they'd say, well, yeah, they're probably just European Romance languages. And I said, no, I actually speak 3 African languages. And only after they finish calling you names and you're able to refute it, then you can go. I left one part of that story out. First line is, we just hate Mexicans. What does Mexicans have to do with Spanish? Mexicans are minority people who speak Spanish around the world. And they're not even a majority of the people who speak Spanish in the United States. Anyway, so you hate Mexicans? Nope. I believe that English should be our national language. It's a language of aviation. It's a language of commerce. It's a language of the internet. It's a language of space. It's the language of everything. And we adopted it. We accepted English. We adopted it. So anyway, in South Africa, it's official language, despite only 9% of the people having it as a first language. And it's the de facto government language now because of the marginalization of Afrikaans in government documents and government work. So yeah, anyway, plenty of countries around the world have adopted English as a language. Anyway, so that's kind of that story. There you go, Assam. That's about language. Now I'm behind the chat. Let me catch up. Assam speaks 4, including French, but can improve. Okay, so then you understood what I was saying in French. Benjamin says, no freaking idea what you're saying, Chris. Don't forget managed. We don't speak mansplain. Frankfurt accent, different dialects. Bayerisch is most different form. Well, there's lots of different forms of German, Hendo. People speak German in South Tyrol in Italy, and it's very different, or Osttirol. We don't understand you. How do you know you're not making words up? Well, that's a good point, Hank. Let me read some Afrikaans, and then we'll see if you know. And what language do you think when speaking French and German? Oh, that's a good question, kilometers per hour. When I speak in French and German, I normally think in French and German. You have to. It's a common stumbling block for people, and it happens when you first learn a language because you're trying to take your language, unless you're a small child, then it just comes to you because you mimic and you repeat, and the patterns form in your brain before your neurons are set. Once those canals are built in your brain, it's hard to make blue lines and branches off of them. The older you get, the harder it gets to learn language. Trust me, I learned French in my mid-30s. It wasn't the easiest foreign language to learn, even though it's not that difficult. But where was I? So I was answering that question. I do think in German, I used to dream in German all the time. I'd have dreams in German. I'd wake up. That was how immersed I was in German. But I don't speak German very often these days. I do read it and keep up on it and watch some German programs. I have German movies, and I used to have a subscription to a German site. French, I listen to French music, French-Canadian music, which is pretty good. I read and keep up with it that way. But my French has declined a little bit too. Afrikaans, I've never pretended I can speak the language. I understand it. The problem is the pronunciation, especially your G's. Which are very difficult. Hartvoll. Ronaldo. Host. Hemsbach. It's hard. Anyway, so I try. But Swahili, I was fluent in Swahili when I first learned it. I learned Swahili at university as an undergraduate, and then took a summer of intensive, all summer long, 3 months, 6 hours a day of Swahili intensive. And I was fluent in Swahili back in 1989, but I didn't use it. But the thing about Swahili is it's a very easy language to learn. It's phonetic, thankfully, because the German missionaries were the first to write the language down. And like German, they made it phonetic. And thankfully, they didn't use umlauts like the Germans have. They just used a straight Roman alphabet. And so it's phonetic, so it's easy. It has a lot of prefixes and suffixes which help identify the person, the action, and direct, indirect objects. It's kind of cool. So Swahili is a fantastic language. It's fun to learn. There's a reason why it's a lingua franca. It's very adaptable. English and Swahili are very flexible languages, which takes borrow words. So, for instance, in Swahili, the word for table is mesa, which is Portuguese. And why? Because the first time people started rocking up with tables is when the Portuguese traders made it to East Africa in the 15th century, rocked up on the Swahili coast, put their tables down to trade their wares. What's that? Mesa. The word for school comes from German, Schule, in Swahili, because the Germans were the first to establish formal schools in Tanganyika, German missionaries. And so they got the word Schule from school, Schul in German. The word for bicycle comes from English, because the English who colonized East Africa were the first to show up in any numbers and introduced the bicycle in East Africa. And the word for bicycle in Swahili is baisikeli. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. So that's how it's a very flexible language, much like English. We take lots of borrow and loan words and bring them into our language. So Swahili is a fun language. Yep, so there you go, a little bit about languages. What are your other languages there, Assam? You said 4, French is 1. What are they? Please share. Ja, praat gewoon lekker. Okay. Bradley, where have you been? Yeah. You should learn French from someone from the south of France than the Parisian French. I would say kilometers per hour that it is much easier to improve your French speaking to a West African who speaks French as a second language or as a first language than it is talking to a Frenchman. The French, they talk faster than I do. People always say, Chris, you talk really fast. DeVillish has become a member. Well, thank you so much for becoming a member. I really appreciate that. Welcome to the team. Let me check on membership. That gets us up there. We're getting close to 80, folks. How cool is that? That's kind of cool. I think that's kind of neat. Let me get there real quick and see. I think that's. I don't want to jinx the number and say how many that is, but I'll get to it in just a second. Really cool. Thank you for becoming a member. I appreciate it, folks. By the way, membership's open. If anyone would like to become a member and support the channel, you're welcome to do that. So you can sign up for Chris White Africa. Here in the U.S., it's $1.99 for a month. Membership, you get a members-only live stream, or as I call it, members perks, because I think members-only sounds exclusive. Not necessarily so, but members perks live stream, plus at the master and commander level, I do a specific video, research video just for you folks. I haven't done one the first month because I didn't get any suggestions, and I'm thinking about a good one to do. But let me look at memberships, ladies and gentlemen. Currently, we sit at 79 members in just a month. Thank you so much, Devils, for becoming a member of Chris White Africa. Very grateful for that. Thanks. Glad to have you as part of the team and supporting it. The $1.99 for folks in South Africa, it's just 10 Rand, 9 Rand 99. So it's like 60 cents US. So it's a bargain. It's a super bargain. Anyway, so check it out. If you'd like to become a member, it's open to you. Errol says to me, Afrikaans is a pure language and straight to the point. What it implies nothing else. Well, what I will say about Afrikaans is the grammar is so much simpler than German, so much easier to figure out. German's got all these different articles, der, die, das, deren, denen, desen, denen, it goes on and on and on. And that is a stumbling block for a lot of people figuring out, well, what's the gender of a tree? What's the gender of, this bottle? What's the and all of the articles go along with that. And then they change based on case. Der becomes den in the accusative case. So I see the man. Ich sehe den Mann. Den Herr. Yeah, anyway, instead of der Herr. So it gets confusing for people. Lars Solis says, wow, 5,600 subscribers. Remember, there's only 70. Yeah, it's true. That's very true. Yeah, thank you all so much. Yeah, we're almost at 5,700. We're one subscription away from 5,700 when I last checked a moment ago. So yeah, language is fun, guys. My schoolgirl French comes back when I'm among French people, says Shirley. There you go. Absolutely. Well, language is interesting. I've always, when I learned German, I discovered something about foreign languages. And what I discovered is that learning a language can, doesn't mean it automatically does, but it can give you insight into how people think and how their culture works. So for instance, in German, you don't use profanity like we do in English, like the F-bomb and things like that to insult people, but you actually call them animal names. I mean, one of the worst insults you could possibly give a German is to call them an alte Esel, which is an old donkey or an old ass. Them's fighting words. And that says a lot about a culture if that's how their insults come from, or their humor and how the language is constructed. Germans can wear you out waiting for a verb as the sentence goes on and on and on and on and on, and you don't really know what happens. You have to listen to every word till you get to the very end, and there's the verb. That's what's happening. It can be very frustrating, especially literary German. It can be very much like that. Thomas Mann was famous for that, I believe, putting the verb way at the end, having a whole page that was one sentence, essentially. Absolutely insane. Try to keep your train of thought for that long. Yeah, but so I learned something about Germans, German culture, by learning the German language. And so that was my basis and my reason for learning languages. So every time I went somewhere after that, I made an effort to learn some of the language. Some places it was easy, some places difficult. For instance, when I was in Bosnia, I didn't spend much time with the Bosniaks. But I did learn a little bit of Serbo-Croatian, but simple things, like phrases like dobar dan, good day, things like that. But nothing to carry me in conversation, just politeness. In other places, like I was stationed in Italy for 2 years, but I didn't spend much time there. So my ability to learn Italian was very limited because I was there a short period, taking off, deployed, coming back, deployed, exercise, coming back, deployed. So most of my 2 years, I actually wasn't in Italy. So that made it challenging. But Italian's an easy language. It's a beautiful language. People say French is beautiful. But when I hear people speak Italian, whoa, that's a beautiful language. Oh, it's just so beautiful. Piacere. Yeah. Anyway, so there you go. Salve. Anyway, Italian is very beautiful. Really, really like it. Let me catch up on the chat. Elizabeth says, we Afrikaners use a lot of swear words as a form of expression. That's true. Okay. All right. Thank you. Lars is laurel in the Germanized form. Sol is the sun. I figured that much out. Solus. Ice is Latin for person who's involved in the activity, like accomplice is involved in accomplishment. So are you Laurel, the person who's into sunbathing? Thank you for sharing that. Not that you should care. It helps pronounce it, though. Lars Solus. Lars Solus. Okay, well, yeah, actually it does. Lars Solus. It does help if I got it right. Lynn says loves French, Italian, Scottish. I don't speak any Gaelic languages. Those are difficult. You've got to immerse yourself in that culture to learn that. At least that's been my experience. Well, folks, thanks for tuning in here on this lovely Wednesday. By the way, a little bit of news development for the channel. On Friday, I've mentioned this yesterday, I believe, that we will have on the channel this week, later on Friday, a special feature live stream with Sarah Alice Saul. Sarah has been in rugby for 25 years. She's manager for the USA Sevens, Eagle Sevens team. She's worked with Mike Friday and knows everybody who's anybody in rugby. She's involved in physiotherapy. She's been a coach. She's been a player. Quite an interesting person, and she is unbelievably entertaining to listen to and engage in. So you're going to miss out on something if you miss that stream on Friday. Please tune in for that stream. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell people you don't like. Let them come check it out. We will have Sarah on at noon Eastern this Friday, the 24th of July, here on Chris White Africa, and talking to her about her career in rugby and what she's up to now. She's got a club effort she's trying to do and a tour in Africa she's trying to get going. So we'll talk about that too. It should be very fascinating. And along those lines, ladies and gentlemen, I have some more news. So does anybody know who Andre Sneeman is? Anyone ever heard of Andre Sneeman? All right, I'll give you a chance to answer that very quickly. Anyone ever heard of Andre Sneeman? Does that name sound familiar? Well, ladies and gentlemen, Andre Sneeman will be a guest on Chris White Africa. That's right, the former Springbok. I think it was 634, 636. Let me check and see which one he was. I think it was 636. Yep, 636. Springbok number 636. Head rugby coach and backs attack specialist. Now in Doncaster in the UK. Andre Sneeman will be on my channel. We haven't set up the time yet, but he's agreed to come on as a guest, so that should be interesting. I don't know those who remember him, but quite an interesting person. So we will also have him on the channel. So that's part of my Rugby Ascendant segment. And so Marius Krukam says, "Good Abend, mein Herr." Rugby sounds familiar. Yeah, it does sound familiar, Hendo, because he was a former Springbok. Afrikaans word for is, yeah, okay, very descriptive language. It is. Karen says there isn't a better language to swear in than Afrikaans. I have a hard time Ah, Marius knew that. Springbok rugby player number 636. Well done, Marius. Yes, Jock, good job. Anyway, well, I'll get him on the channel soon. So, yes, that should be cool, huh? Well, at the moment, he'll be my first former Springbok on the channel. Some other folks have promised me that they have contacts for some other former Springboks, and I'm waiting to hear back from those players. But in the meantime, I've reached out to Andre because I know him in a different fashion, and he's agreed to come on the channel. So I'm very much looking forward to that. That should be quite exciting. Benjamin Clark says, we made the United Nations, what's this? Something the United Nations on the border that was a highlight of my life, meaning all the different people, cultures back then. Oh, you're talking about the UN mission that went there to Namibia. Cool. What language can match the word fotsek? That's tough to find it. Portuguese is good to swear, and I think Afrikaans got it from them. Maybe. So could be. Anyway, yeah. Oh, Charmaine gave a clap. I think that's because Charmaine's happy that we've got Andre coming on the channel. Cool beans. Yeah, it should be great. What means good evening, sir? Oh, no, I know that, Marius. I speak German. Thank you. By the way, folks, if you're a member of Chris White Africa, guess what you get to do? You get to use custom emojis. That's right. If you become a member, you get to reach out and use those custom emojis, which are kind of cool. I don't know if you guys have followed that, but we have custom emojis on the channel, and you can use them. So some of the custom emojis, you see folks using them right now on the channel. They're putting them up there, and kind of put them in the chat if you want to use them. And the number of custom emojis depends on the number of members that we have, active members. So right now we have 13 custom emojis, and 12 of them aren't too bad. One of them is kind of lame because I haven't got it fixed right. But I just want to get to that very quickly. Come on, where's it at? Use the custom emojis here. So, oh, Lynn just used them all. Well, thank you, Lynn. I was just going to do that. Thank you so much for covering that for me. Yeah, there you go. So you see the thumbs up, the U.S. flag, the medal, the unicorn, Donald Trump freezing for the folks in South Africa, the sauropod, the rugby ball, the rhino, the South African flag, the cherry blossom, the trophy, which for me represents the William Webb Ellis Trophy for the Rugby World Cup, and then the custom emoji for Chris White Africa. So there you go. So those are the custom emojis. Lynn, thanks for sharing those. Finger pointing up would be useful. No, we're trying to keep civil discourse here. I'm not going to... Is it 14? Is that what we have? Okay, I thought I had 13. All right, well, thank you, Hendo. Yeah, but it's based on the members. I added the Trump one use name. Oh, that finger. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be a good one, use name. Thanks. That would be a good one. I thought someone meant a middle finger. There you go. So what do you think about the fact that not one squatters camp was on lockdown since day one, yet no people in these areas have fallen dead in the streets yet? Charmaine, I don't know what the status is of people being ill or not being ill in the streets as a consequence of COVID-19, because the coverage of the townships since the death of Collins Kosa has been sparse to non-existent. We see anecdotal Twitter videos and Instagram videos in which people claim to have taken them in townships. I can presume that the police and the SAPS and SANDF have pulled back from the townships after murdering 10 to 12 black South Africans and being terrified that black South Africans would be aware of that. So we've seen people just running loose in townships, and of course that's the reason, one of the primary reasons for the spread of the virus. So I don't know about people not falling dead. The number of deaths in South Africa is relatively low given the number of confirmed cases. We're approaching 400,000 confirmed cases in South Africa with just 5,000 deaths attributed to it. Now, I suspect that one of the reasons for that is the youth, the age. A lot of people who are coming down positive for the virus are younger, and they're less likely to pass away. Of course, the irony is South Africa also has a major problem with HIV and tuberculosis, and those plus hypertension, type 2 diabetes, all serious problems across South Africa. All of those contribute to fatalities. So it's interesting, I think, so far to see the low number of fatalities. I wonder if there's underreporting going on, whereas in the United States, they're inflating the numbers massively to overthrow Donald Trump. That's the intent here, is to undermine the 2020 election in November with distorting what's actually happening in this country. So they're over-reporting. Guy dies in a motorcycle accident. They put down COVID-19 without even testing him. New York City went from 6,300 fatalities to 10,300 fatalities overnight when they started adding suspected COVID-19, people who weren't even tested. And they admitted publicly, we didn't test these people. We just thought that they had it because they died. Are you serious? Anyway, yeah, so I don't know what's going on in the townships, and I don't think anybody really has a good handle on it. That's part of the problem. I think that's a big issue. What else we got here? was at the hospital today, sad state of affairs. Nigel, if you want to share which hospital or which town anyway, Nigel, that would be interesting. Finger pointing out would be useful. 14 emojis. Elizabeth says, how do you feel about owners of South African companies handing over half ownership just to get contract from the government? Saw your comment on Morning Shot stream. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. I have real serious issues with that. And in that an entrepreneur puts their hard sweat equity, their labor, their ideas, their energy, their drive, they risk their future. Oftentimes, people using their credit cards are taking out personal signature loans to raise money to start a business. And they live through lean times, and they get the business established, and it grows. And then a government comes along and says, you can only have a contract with us if you give your equity away to someone whose skin color is different. And that's not racist. That's not discriminatory. I don't want to hear about apartheid or balancing the scales of apartheid. We are approaching the moment when more people were born, if we haven't already approached it, more people born after the end of apartheid who are alive in South Africa today than were alive during the apartheid era. So why are people born after apartheid held responsible for events that took place before their lifetime? And I don't want to hear that people are born in different circumstances. That's just the nature of life, ladies and gentlemen. Tokyo Sexwale's children are born into a life of privilege, which I could never even dream of having. They're brown. They're mixed race. Do I envy them? No. Do I think it's unfair and unjust? No. It's the way it is. I grew up in rural part of Appalachia. I didn't have a car. Almost everyone I knew in high school had a car. It's life. Didn't have electricity for a while. That kind of sucked. Didn't moan about it. Didn't have plumbing. Used an outdoor privy. Didn't moan about it. Played sports, had to walk to and from practice. Long way, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. You know the stories. When I was a kid, we walked through the snow 20 miles uphill both ways. Yeah, well, true story here. This envy, this hatred of other people for success, whether their success or it's their parents or grandparents, that's just ludicrous. And to blame people into perpetuity for a system that the ANC's had 26 years to fix. And in fact, they've made worse in many respects. Healthcare is in worse condition now than it was in 1994 for most South Africans. Education for most Black South Africans is far worse today than it was then. And they simply lower the standards and bring illiterate, uneducated, dangerous people into the workplace. Can you imagine having a structural engineer who got 36 as a qualifying score in his matric to enter university? Yeah. 36 in maths, and you enter university. That's insane. You don't make things better by pushing along failure. You achieve success by investing in people and in education. And they're not doing that. They're not doing that. And this is the problem. And they blame it, the ANC. That's what I'm talking about. Those out there, no. There's no dog whistle here. They is the African National Congress, which is comprised of all South Africans, including a lot of diluted white South Africans, colored South Africans, and Indian South Africans whose party works against their own personal interest, yet they're still members of the party. Absolutely true. Anyway, so yeah, there you go. What do I think about handing over your equity? I think it's morally bankrupt. Shirley Creed has just become a member. Wow, Shirley, thank you so much for that. That's awesome. Kia boa. Thank you so much. Bye, donkey. Or a horse. Sorry, I couldn't help. I rarely do that. But yeah, let's check out now and see where we're at. Let's check it out, as Ronaldo likes to say. Let's check it out and see where we're at, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to membership, because I think that will push us very close to a target. Cool beans. Thank you so much, Shirley, for becoming a member. She's been with us now, a subscriber for a bit, and she just become a member. So that says 79. It's actually 80. Shirley's hasn't shown yet up on my statistics. Thank you so much for joining. That'll put us at 80 members of Chris Wine Africa. Thank you all so much. By the way, for anybody sitting out going, well, wow, that must be about money. It's not. The membership doesn't raise very much money. It's about, I wasn't going to have membership on this channel, but a few dozen people asked me for it when I only had a few hundred subscribers. Said, when are you going to have memberships? And I said, I'll think about it. And people kept asking. And so finally I decided to make memberships. And I made the threshold very low to become a member. So you become a member of the community. You can feel like you're contributing and supporting the effort. So thank you so much for that. By the way, I got my first little bit of money from Google paying me off for several months of just a little small amount came to me. But I've been funding for the studio lights and the stuff behind me and the microphone and the extra screen and all these other things out of pocket, which is fine because I want to do this. But the donations certainly help. Thank you so much for the memberships and the super chats. They really do make a difference, and they'll help offset some of the costs. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. And when we are able to start traveling again and I start giving you live streams from around the world, covering events, back into journalist mode there beyond just sitting here. Anything that comes across in the form of super chats and memberships we use to help defray that cost. So thank you very much for that. But yeah, handing over equity in your company, I think, is a brain dead concept, and it undermines entrepreneurialism. Why should I come up with, I invented hand sanitizer. What an interesting idea. People can clean their hands and don't need water. You can use it anywhere. You can take it in the jungle, clean off those nasty little Ebola viruses. Yeah, right? So I invented hand sanitizer. I designed a lovely packet and I market it, right? But now, after my blood, sweat, equity, my toil, the hard energy I've put into for 12 years to become a success, and suddenly I'm a success, I want a contract with the government, and the only way to get a contract with the government is if I hand over half of my company to someone. Why? Because they've contributed? No. Because they have great ideas? No. Because they have capital that's going to make my company bigger? No. Didn't say sell equity, it said give equity. Hand over and give equity to someone. Why? Because the government of the day has deemed that I must do so in order to compete for contracts with the government, which is one of the biggest consumers in the entire country. And the only way to do that is if I give this to a person based on their skin color alone. How is that not morally reprehensible? And when you give something to people, particularly wealth, it doesn't engender entrepreneurialism, savings, investment. It engenders spending. That's what happens. Look at all the music stars who suddenly fall, or athletes who fall into money. They have nothing, and the next day they have millions. What do they do with it? 85, 90% of them squander it. It's wasted in consumerism and not put to good use. No, it's morally bankrupt. It's a stupid system. It's race-based, and it is shameful. The fact that the Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, the United Nations Human Rights Commission, the United Nations, the European Union, Berlin, London, Washington, Tokyo say nothing about this shameful practice speaks volumes about global elites, taking care of global elites. It's shameful. It's wrong. The gentleman who was on Roman's program earlier, Brian, nothing against him. He seems like a decent guy, and he's got an idea. And in a normal country, he'd probably be a very profitable guy without playing games. But he has contributed to this by playing the ANC game, and he's quite clear about it. Well, we had to do this, so that's what we did. And we can sit around and complain about it, or we can make money. Okay, but by making money, you've undermined entrepreneurialism and opportunity for millions of other people. I'm not targeting that gentleman. I'm talking anybody that plays this game, whether it's EdCon, or it's KFC franchisees, or take your pick, any of these companies. No, it's not a sound way to do business. The African National Congress is wrong, and they need to pull it back. They need to step back and stop doing what they're doing because it's just morally bankrupt. It's completely wrong. Right, let me catch up on the chat. Okay, please add an elephant soon. Well, Karen, thank you. That's a good idea because I love elephants. It's my favorite animal. They're amazing creatures. They're a matriarchal society. They have amazing inherited knowledge. They can find water holes, 50, 60 kilometers away. Really amazing creatures. I love elephants. So elephants should be a good one. That's a good one. Should be $sign when you type a message. Okay. Charmaine says, last year the normal flu killed 11,000 people in South Africa. I'm actually disappointed. You're being funny. No, last year, around the world, malaria killed 620,000 people, most of them in Africa. 800,000 people died from suicide. 900,000 people died from HIV/AIDS. And 1.5 million people died from tuberculosis in 2019. This year, in 2020, despite destroying the global economy, imprisoning billions of people as if they're felons and criminals. In Kentucky, they took a couple and they tested positive for COVID-19, and they put ankle bracelets on them, monitors as if they're felons, and confined them to their home. There's no legal basis for doing that, yet they're getting away with it. But all those people died last year. We didn't shut the world down. Tuberculosis is far more infectious than COVID-19, which is also highly infectious, by the way. Easy to catch, but tuberculosis is very easy to catch by comparison to other things like the common flu or the cold. We didn't shut the world down. 8 months, even with inflated, dishonest figures coming in from around the world, particularly from the United States, we have just over 600,000 deaths attributed to this virus in 8 months. At that pace, it might reach 1 million by the end of the year. which still puts it behind tuberculosis. Guy Fawkes mask. I would like to get the guy. Yeah, I want the V Vendetta mask. That's what I want. If I can get that mask, then I'll wear a mask. Hendo says bees killing off South African economy. Yes, and threat of expropriation without compensation. Morton is, I'm back in South African quarantine. Oh, you made it, Morton. Morton is no longer in Mauritius. So can I talk about Mauritius now, Morton? Welcome back to South Africa, Morton. You're in quarantine. Nobody stays in rooms or wears a mask. They sit around in groups smoking, drinking coffee. Yeah, because that's highly effective, right? Yeah, it's all just a ridiculous joke. No, it's not a joke, COVID-19, but the government's reaction to it's a joke. Jacques says, I've not had a chance to read The Andromeda Strain. Was Crichton close to our current scenario? The Andromeda Strain is a pretty scary book, but it was a long time ago. So it's been a long time ago since I read that. Elizabeth's sad that we accepted just as Chris Wyatt. We couldn't fight the system, so learned how to work around it. Yeah, no, I got you, Elizabeth. But it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't solve anything. No company in civil construction get a contract unless 51% is black owned. Yeah, there you go. It's just wrong. The ANC must be voted out. And for the people who complain and never vote, this is on you. 8 to 10 million people eligible to vote in South Africa don't vote, of all ethnicities. If there was ever a time to strike against the African National Congress at the ballot box, it's now. The election's in 2021, assuming they don't try to defraud the South African people and hold the election then. But you don't win the 2021 election 3 months before the vote in 2021. You win it today. You go out and point out that 155 minority black tobacco farmers are going out of business after 20 years of transformation in the tobacco sector, in which these people got a foothold and learned their skills and developed farms to sell tobacco. Why? Because tobacco causes COVID-19? No. Why? Because Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma is a tyrant, and she's a bigot, and she is using her position on the National Coronavirus Command Council to unlawfully restrict the sale of tobacco while Zuma-related companies sell illicit cigarettes. The state is deprived of tax revenue. Smokers addicted to nicotine are forced to buy illicit cigarettes of questionable, dodgy origin or provenance. No tax revenue, enriching criminal syndicates, and undermining legitimate businesses. That's how you win. You win by pointing out that this government, which proclaims that it cares about Black Lives Matter, yet has turned a deaf ear to the murder of 40 to 50 black South Africans every single day of every year for 26 years, and undermine law enforcement, undermine the South African police services. And the only time they ever paid attention to security in a significant fashion was the build-up to the 2010 FIFA World Cup. That's it. That's it. Maybe the 95 Rugby World Cup. I don't know. I wasn't involved in security with them back then. They undermine security at every turn by putting comrades, criminals, cronies in charge of the police instead of competent law enforcement officials or leaders. Not providing adequate funding, not funding labs, pathology. Anyway, just it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Shirley's the 80th person. That is correct. She's the 80th person. Welcome, Shirley. Asked to be put in the WhatsApp. Yeah, Shirley, what you do is send me an email. Go to the About tab. If you want to be part of the WhatsApp group, send me the email. Give me your mobile number, and I'll put you in there. I don't put people in automatically. One, because either I don't have their mobile number. Two, I'm not going to put you in there because maybe you have a private mobile number you don't want to share because people can see your mobile number in the WhatsApp group. But if you send me an email with your number and saying, I'd like to be part of the group, then I will send you the link so you can join the group. You're welcome. Welcome, Shirley. Good to have you there. Jacques says we have surgeons who would not have qualified if not for employment. Yeah, exactly. Do you want someone giving you a surgery that got 50% in their physiology class? No. Emery says, what do you think of an EFF counselor from the Musina Mun? Abel Rasibla was arrested for possession of illicit cigarettes, was granted $1,000 bail, 40 cartons. No, I think that's a good example of what's going on. This is a member of government. Now, listen, there are people involved in government the world over who get involved in corrupt practices. I went to high school in New Lexington, Ohio, and I knew a guy named Larry Householder, who's a few years ahead of me. There was a teacher named Larry Householder, but it's a different guy. Larry Householder was from Junction City, Ohio, which is where I grew up, and became a member of the state legislature. Has been in Congress since 2003. He was just arrested yesterday, along with a whole bunch of other Republican members of Congress for money laundering in a $60 million scheme. Did they do it? I don't know. We'll see what happens. But people take advantage of systems the world over. It's not strictly EFF. I'm sure that we can find ANC, lots of ANC, and we probably can find a few DA folks who misbehave too. It's the nature of people. That's why you have to have rules, and you have to have police, and you have to have justice systems in the military, because someone will always seek to profit by taking advantage of others. Charmaine says, take 5, cause the media is pushing fear-mongering. Lone Wolf says, busy mounting device to a wall whilst listening to Radio Wyatt, Radio Free South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Radio Free South Africa, coming to you from the confines of the Western Hemisphere, where freedom of speech remains in fashion and vogue despite the leftist progressives seeking to undermine civil order and undermine the Constitution. Here we are on Radio Free South Africa. Thank you for tuning in. Goeiedag, South Africa. Hoe gaan dit? Hey, all right. Welcome to Radio Free South Africa. Watched Germ's video this morning. Very informative. I'm afraid, Tanya, to watch Germ. Last time I watched Germ, I thought he was going to explode. He was seriously triggered last time I watched Germ. No, I'm just kidding. Excuse me. Okay, hang on. Let me get back here. My chat just jumped way ahead, so I got to catch back up here. Okay. The Eastern Cape Education Department spent $400 million on tablets worth $150 million. There you go. Money well spent. Not. 49 versus 51. Username says, what are your thoughts on the recent proposal for universal basic income in South Africa? Why are Vatican church authorities endorsing such a UBI? Well, because the Vatican is now run by an Argentine socialist, a leftist progressive, an idiot, the most embarrassing pontiff in living memory for the Catholic Church. I feel bad for them. A man who comes to America and holds mass in Spanish, an English-speaking nation. He does that intentionally to insult us. Whereas Pope John Paul gave masses in Polish, German, Latin, French, Italian, Spanish, all of them. That was a very different situation. He intentionally came to Philadelphia and gave a mass in Spanish to an American audience. No use for the Argentine leftist. Go back to your land of Eva Perón and your good beef, and take your nonsense with you and your decent rugby. No, thank you, Pontiff. What do I think of universal basic income in South Africa? I think that universal basic income is a dunderheaded, brain-headed idea. Absolutely. Absolutely. You don't teach people to be responsible and contributing members to society by giving things away. It's one thing to help those in need. Someone who's fallen down on their knees in bad times, someone who's injured, someone who's crippled as a consequence of an injury or an accident, or someone who's mentally deficient. You help people who are less fortunate in society. But having a universal basic income, this is what you do. The first thing you do is you undermine the value of currency. If everybody in South Africa automatically gets 1,000 Rand, then 1,000 Rand doesn't mean anything. It's not worth anything. Anybody can buy something with 1,000 Rand. So you've just caused inflation automatically by giving away that money. You've undermined the value of labor. You've undermined the value of thrift. You've undermined the value of contributing to society and turned people, instead of being productive citizens, into being leeches on society. That's right. That's right. That moronic idea has been raised in this country, and it's actually being talked about seriously in Congress. And I hope that these leftists lose their seats in Congress and go back to being the idiots that they were back home and doing something stupid back home instead of doing stupid things in D.C., which affect all of us. It's a dumb idea, and I don't want to hear about poverty. 26 years people had a chance to improve their condition in South Africa. There's been no apartheid preventing anybody of any race or any color from doing things in South Africa. Now, there has been racist legislation implemented by the African National Congress, which has undermined lots of people in South Africa, in fact, all people in the aggregate. But there's nothing preventing people who live in poverty from moving up other than themselves and the ANC. Reform the ANC, change the ANC's broken macroeconomic policies, and the country will take off like a rocket. Despite the fact that labor productivity is low, despite the fact that there are lots of challenges to the South African economy, it will take off because it's been so hindered. There is such a great weight being pushed down on the throat of South Africa's economy right now by the ANC and its foolhardy macroeconomic policies, which do nothing to improve the lot of anyone except ANC cadre. That's whose lot has been improved. People who are given illicit equity from companies like Anglo American or Anglo Platinum or Old Mutual or Edcon. They didn't earn it, just handed to them. And then they pontificate from on high about our colonial and racist economy. Please, grow up. I'm not stupid. I'm not falling for your nonsense. Never did fall for it. Elizabeth says, if you were running South Africa, running a political party, I would vote for you just because you will say stupid when it's stupid. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. Was that Forrest Gump? Stupid is as stupid does. Robin says, hello. Welcome, Robin. Hank is here. Tanya, well, thank you. Devil should vote for me too. Shirley says she feels privileged to be a member. Well, thank you, Shirley. That's very special. I mean, honestly, this isn't pandering for the camera. Honestly, it's special. You guys, thank you so much. Again, those with me the early days, those of you who asked, you know who you are. You asked for me to create memberships when I didn't even understand what memberships are all about, because YouTube only did this about 2 years ago. It's a recent development. So I didn't really understand what memberships were. I became a member of another channel just to check it out, and I found it interesting. But a lot of people kept asking me, and so I'm like, why? And then I started to dawn on me when I started to create the memberships when I was eligible, that people just wanted to be part of something that they supported and they liked, and if I made it reasonable, that people would want to do it. So Shirley, thank you for being a member, and thank you for saying very, very kind things. I really appreciate it. By the way, not everything I say makes everybody happy, including people who get along with me, disagree with me at times. But I would like to think that no one ever thinks that I'm abusive towards anyone. If I say something, it's in jest, but not usually. I don't intentionally intend to insult anybody. The reason I mentioned this, I was on LinkedIn earlier today, and some guy's trolling me on LinkedIn who is a first level connection, someone that I know. And he posted something, I disagree with it, and I wrote on his site, I said, nope, that's not true. And he comes back and says, what are your sources? I said, well, I offered an opinion, but if you want sources, you didn't offer any sources. You just said Trump is evil and didn't offer any basis for it. But here you go. And in less than 10 minutes, I put 3 academic sources, respected scholars on the topic of Turkey, posted LinkedIn, and then the guy comes back and talks about something completely unrelated and accused me of not answering his answers, so I answered his question, so I answered it again. He did this a couple of times. Then he goes, well, I'll go find my sources and I'll come back. And then, I lost interest. So now he comes back a week later and says, you're ignoring my questions. I posted them 5 days ago. I'm like, dude, do you expect me to go back and check your posts every day just to see if you ever come up with any facts? No. And now he comes onto my post trolling me about something completely unrelated. Anyway, the reason I mention that is that even this guy who's being a jerk, is being disrespectful, and is intentionally trying to provoke something because he hates Trump. You know what? We get it. You hate Trump. That is your prerogative. Don't vote for him. I'm voting for him, and that's my prerogative. And I don't even like the guy, but I vote for the best leadership available, and that's the best leadership available, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, yeah, so that's why I mentioned it here. But thank you, Shirley, for being a member. Thank you for those kind words. Really appreciate it. Lone Wolf, stuffing golden eggs up the butt of a dead gold goose that laid them will not bring it back to life. Lone Wolf, you have got the quote of the day. Stuffing golden eggs up the butt of a dead golden goose that laid them will not bring it back to life. South African Airways. Yeah, well, those of you who follow me know that I am hot full of South African Airways and state ownership of that airline. And I have done multiple videos talking about the problem. But I don't just do videos talking about it. I've actually offered solutions. I've said how you save South African Airways. Now, it's too late now. It just needs to be broken up. But before it went into the COVID mess, I gave recommendations how you save the airline, if you just listen to it. So it's not just complaining. I actually offer solutions, ladies and gentlemen. That's part of what I do. That's why I have a consultancy. I offer solutions to people. Martin, welcome. Good to see you here. Make South Africa great again. That would be nice. More knowledge of South Africa than the average voter. Yanni says, I can speak all languages except Greek, and all languages I can't speak is Greek to me. Ha, that's funny. Let's see what else we got here. Shirley created this channel is awesome, says Elizabeth. Yep. Jacques says, you can riot and burn churches to the ground, but don't you dare visit grandma. Oh, yeah. Well, no. No. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, in the interest of full disclosure, I'm all about solutions. So here you go. If you want to visit grandma in South Africa, if you want to meet with your family, here's what you do. You buy a combi. Go buy a combi. You're registered as a taxi. You put a private coach sign on it. You drive around to your family members. You pick them up. You have a bottle of wine in the back, a little cheese and thing, put a little video screen up there, whatever. Drive around, do touring, see the countryside, check out things. Go out to the Mahalisburg. Check out the Cradle of Mankind. Just check it out. Go down the Sterkfontein Caves. It's a beautiful event. Make it an outing for the family. You can see your family. And you're doing it in a taxi where there's no social distancing required whatsoever, as per the totalitarian National Coronavirus Command Council, ladies and gentlemen. You knock out all the birds with one stone. You get yourself a new vehicle. You support the South African economy. You have a means to get around the country and tour and get to know South Africa better. You can be with your family and friends, and all complying with the ludicrous, asinine, useless, feckless, moronic dictates of the National Coronavirus Command Council. There you go. Pop's your uncle. Yeah, there you go. That's the answer, ladies and gentlemen. I'm all about solutions. Check it out. That's how you overcome this. Deborah, I did a sit-in today at one of our local restaurants, supportive job losses. Yeah, it's devastating, that restaurant industry. Speaking of which, actually had fast food today, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time since February. I had to go over to a local business to schedule an inspection for my truck, my Toyota Land Cruiser, or not Land Cruiser, 4Runner. It's due for an inspection, annual inspection, so I had to schedule that, and right next to it is a Wendy's, and there was no one in the drive-thru line since you can't sit in a restaurant. So I just zipped right in there and ordered some chili and a Asiago chicken burger, and got that. And it's been, February, March, April, May, June, July. It's been 5 months since I had fast food, and you know what? I didn't miss it. I thought I would. Didn't miss it. I mean, when I was in Africa, I was dying for something, so much so that every time I was in Botswana, I would get to Rustenburg. I'd stop at the Waterfalls Mall at that McDonald's right there next to the motorway, and I'd fill up a cooler full of McNuggets and burgers, take them back to Botswana, stick them in the freezer, so I'd have fast food whenever I wanted. Yeah, but these days, not so much. Imagine how an African nationalist must see a white person who calls his cultural group African. Well, they don't agree with it. They don't think you're African. Unlawfully taking land from rightful owners. Wow. Yep, it happens. Jacques says, don't underestimate educating our friends in townships on the reasons why they're always greeted by empty promises. If 30% keeps believing. Well, we have 30% in this country believes in nonsense too, which we have to win the middle ground, folks. Linda says, I buy my tobacco from a lady who gets it from Tobacco Farm because I will not support the illegal cigarette trade, and we need to support our tobacco farmers. Yeah, so you're probably getting it from a small-scale farm, I would guess. It sounds like. Kruk in Ndok needs money for campaigns next election. Her son owns the Eagle brand amalgamated tobacco, and that's the smokes we buy now. A guy worthwhile to watch is Vernon Coleman. Devilish says, where'd it go? Oh, my chat jumped up on me again there. Wow, I'm way behind here. Let me catch up. Okay. Charlie said, thanks. You're welcome. Paratus did a brilliant rant today. I haven't watched Paratus. I'll have to check Paratus out. Yep. I haven't done a rant. By the way, did you guys check out who watched the my Sia Khaleesi video? And did you like it? Because it was shadow banned yesterday. For those who know, a lot of you were here at this conversation yesterday, but not all you were. I did a video yesterday afternoon because on Ronaldo Host's program, people were asking if I was going to cut up my Springboks jersey because people know I have a lot of them. And so I was going to do the video anyway, but I rushed to do it, and I did the video, and I posted it, and then it took off. Just took off. It was amazing how many people watched it. In fact, the video before that, my tobacco video, was my best ever premiere. We had 140 plus people for the premiere of that video. Thank you so much for that. That's a great premiere. I mean, you get 25, 30, 50. That's pretty good, but 140 people tuned in for that. And there was a cameo by Herman Roos in that video, in which I played his 36-second video about asking President Ramaphosa to lift the ban on tobacco. Anyway, so that video was about the tobacco industry and what's going on there in South Africa. And that was great. And then right behind that, I played my Sia Khaleesi video, and it took off like a banshee, like a rocket. And then suddenly, within half an hour, about 20 minutes, it was blocked. And for 2 hours, it was blocked until I changed the title and dropped the letters Bravo Lima Mike from the description. And then it wasn't unbanned. But that video is doing well too. So thank you all for watching it. Bartender AOC does not understand simple principles. Yeah, she does not. So sketch Strong Together says, Chris, they blame whites for everything, but they never did anything for the past 20 years. In fact, South Africa would have been better in anarchy. That's a hard statement to argue with. Molly says, love the way you call a spade, Chris. Well, thank you, Molly. Thanks for coming to the channel. I hope you're a subscriber. If you're not, smash that subscription button. It costs nothing. But if you're so inclined to support the channel, you can also become a member of Chris White Africa for a small amount of money if you'd like to do that. Martin says, we get our hands out almost every year from government between Hong Kong 5,000 to 10,000. That comes from state-owned enterprises that give part of the profit back to people. Macau does the same. Yeah, nobody ever talks about Macau anymore. I wonder what's happening in Macau. Portuguese gave that up, and it wasn't quite as successful as Hong Kong was, but it was still a success. Jacques says, I don't think people hang around for 3-hour streams if they're feeling abused. You're safe, Colonel. Oh, good point. Thank you so much for that, Jacques. 1994, the whole world is our friend. Sanctions lifted, no more expensive border war, no more expensive apartheid. Now SA can really prosper, but then there was the ANC. Well, I think Heinrich has just hit the nail on the head. The sky was the limit. 1994, South African Airways had the oyster of the continent of Africa at its feet. The most successful, the best capitalized, the most experienced airline on the continent in 1994. It could have built routes throughout Africa and brought African business all over the continent and improved transportation for Africans, because back in 1994 you couldn't get from one place to another without going to Europe. I had to get from Ghana to Ivory Coast, which are right next to each other. I had to fly to Switzerland to do that. Back then, ladies and gentlemen, there were no routes between them. You had to drive overland, which took longer than flying to Switzerland coming back. South African Airways had the world as its oyster. Today, it's a shadow of what it was in 1994. And it's soon to be a shadow of what it was in 2018, as it goes down to just 9 planes and 2,000 employees. Yet still doesn't have any money. Mario says, your content's awesome. Appreciate it. Well, thank you so much for that. Olaf, I'm voting for him as well, though I'm not an American. Cool. Wait a second. You're voting for Trump and you're not an American? While I appreciate the support, I don't appreciate illegal voting. Alita says, I really enjoyed yesterday's videos. Super good jersey you got on today. Well, thank you. Stormers. Lars Elise says, I have no idea who that person is. Hopefully she wakes up. Oh, Alexander Ocasio-Cortez. Strange how a British company gets named Anglo-American. Yeah, no. Strange how a lot of companies get their names, but yeah, I get your point. Jacques says, nice. Stronger together, dangerous. Okay. Yanni says, no light-skinned humans working for McDonald's in South Africa. That was an agreement. I don't know if that's the case, but now that you mention, I've never seen anyone who's not black or colored working in a McDonald's. I'm sure that maybe there must be, but I've never seen one. That's actually interesting. Craig Montgomery. Liked your stream, not the Springbok. That captain lost my respect. Yeah, no, with good reason, Marius. Sorry you and Craig are on the same wavelength as to what's going on in South Africa. Who's Craig Montgomery and what wavelength am I on? I'm lost. What's going on with Craig Montgomery? In 85, the rand was valued the same. Well, before 85, the rand was stronger than the dollar. That's absolutely true, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, so anyway, yeah. So we are ordering the Chinese consulate in Houston to be closed in the United States today as a consequence of the U.S. government claiming that they're involved in intellectual property theft. Interesting. Username says, have you checked out Odez's channel yet? He is calling for direct elections. Perhaps you can interview and interrogate. I've been a subscriber to Odez's channel for some time. Somebody told me he's gotten 15,000 subscribers in 6 weeks. That may be true, but his channel is 3 years old. So I don't know if he was, what date you're picking for that. And I've watched his videos. I'm not sure what the appeal is. I have sent an invitation to him, asked him to appear on my channel, and hopefully he'll take it up on it because now I'm curious to learn more about him. But I've watched his videos and nothing against them, but they don't really excite me. So I don't know why people are so excited. So maybe it's because he's calling for direct elections. But he doesn't have an interesting background and work in the nuclear industry. No, I have invited him to come on the program, as have I invited, was it Debbie Els? Is that her name? The folks who were asking me to invite Debbie Els to come on, I've also invited her. Now, that's within the last 24 hours, so I haven't gotten a response, but hopefully they'll respond. I see 3 people who can save America: Candace, Kaylee, and William. Huh, interesting. The principle Sun Tzu, beautifully implemented. Hippo eyes. In 1972, the rand was valued against the gold, then moved to value against the dollar. Biggest mistake made. Interesting. Petra says he doesn't like Odez. Yeah, I don't understand the appeal of Odez. and maybe I will find out the appeal if Odez comes on the channel. But I've made an offer, and we'll hopefully see. In fact, let me check and see if anybody's responded from that side. I get so many messages over here. I have to stream through it. That's why I have multiple email accounts. No, I don't see anything there. I don't see anything there yet. Yep. Well, they do have an invitation for a online event about the crisis in Mozambique. The Center for Strategic International Studies invited me to participate in this event, so I may check that out. That's on the 28th. Cool beans. So that's next week on Mozambique, talking about what's the events in Cabo Delgado province in northern Mozambique. So that's next week. We'll check that one out. But yeah. The Hawk. Craig Montgomery is the Hawk, Yanni? I watch the Hawk. People ask me to bring on my channel, and that guy just yells at everybody. I don't understand him, and he throws me off. I don't know where he's coming from. You think we have the same view as South Africa? I don't get that at all. From maybe you've seen something I didn't see. If the ANC wins the 2020 elections, what do you think the future of South Africa will look? Kilometers per hour. If it's a legitimate election, I don't see how in God's green acre the ANC could possibly win the 2021 elections. Let me put this in perspective. In 2016, when things were nowhere near as desperate, and the only big issue was corruption and Jacob Zuma. In 2016, the Democratic Alliance outright won Cape Town. They won 45% of the vote in Nelson Mandela Bay, which is a plurality. But they actually had 9,000 votes fewer than the previous election. If they just campaigned effectively and retained their vote, they would have won outright majority. So an outright majority in Nelson Mandela Bay is an easy thing for them to achieve if they campaign properly. They came in second in Johannesburg, but managed to form a coalition. But they're around 40%. They could easily get to 50% in this next election with discontent. And the same thing in Pretoria. They formed a coalition there, and they had around 40%. One of them had 42, the other had 38%. I don't recall which one it was. I think it was Pretoria might have been 38%. But they formed two coalition governments. So they could win outright 50% in those cities. If the ANC wins those cities, they're not going to win Cape Town, but if they win those other cities, then it's game over. The pilfering, the theft, the racialization of everyday life will continue. The lack of rule of law, the lack of law enforcement, the lack of prosecution of criminals, the lack of prosecution of state criminals, of white-collar criminals will continue. And millions of South Africans will continue to flee their country, going elsewhere, taking their talent, their entrepreneurialism, their skills with them in a country that desperately needs those things. South Africa can no longer afford to be leached of its talent because of its capricious governance. It actually needs its citizens to stay in South Africa. And that's not going to happen with this mindset in the African National Congress. The African National Congress is going to have to crap or get off the pot as far as expropriation without compensation. For years, every time this measure was raised in Parliament, they voted it down overwhelmingly. 3 out of 4 of their members of Parliament voted against every single time, until the rise of the EFF and their terror that the EFF would siphon off their votes and they lose control of government. The 2016 election showed them that such a thing was possible. The EFF weakened the ANC and the DA improved, and that scared the ANC. So suddenly in 2017, they started talking about expropriation without compensation, foolishly thinking that that's the panacea that will save their sorry bottoms. And when they did that, they opened up a door in Pandora's box. Because the EFF wants that. They want nationalization of mines, of properties, of companies, and nationalization of farmland, as if we're living in the collective societies of the 1930s in the Ukraine under the Soviet tyranny. Or in Tanzania under Julius Nyerere in the 1960s in another failed experiment in socialism that did not work. This is the direction the ANC took. Now, they play games with gazetting and doing polls and talking because these are all processes in order to amend the Constitution. But if they're serious about EWC, why isn't it before the Parliament now? Why isn't the amendment on the floor? Why is the process drug out for 3 years? I honestly believe the ANC never really was serious about this. They never intended to do it. They were just trying to curry votes for the 2019 election. You'll notice how no action has been taking place since the election. Nothing's happened, by and large. But there is the very real possibility that they will team up, members of their own party will break ranks and team up with the EFF, and this thing becomes an amendment to the Constitution. When that happens, it's all over, ladies and gentlemen. It is over. South Africa is done. It's done. It's done. Things like the Cape Independence Movement will gain traction, and people will flee South Africa en masse. They're already fleeing South Africa. It's really sad. Anyway, that's how I feel about that, since that was the question. Sloth Puppy says Hawk has lost the plot. It will be a disservice to have him on, though it may be interesting. No, I think so too. I mean, from what I saw, I mean, I don't understand the plot if he's got the plot. Principle of direct elections about localized representation directly held accountable by the community or placed directly. I'm not sure I understand that, Louis. Hey, Louis, welcome. Louis ZA. I don't think I've seen you before. Welcome. You mean direct elections, not voting for a party list? Well, that's something I've been arguing for in South Africa since CODESA. This party list nonsense is crap. It's not democratic. It's not right. And it results in skewed governance. When the ANC wins the vote in the Western Cape, which they did briefly over a decade ago, and then they pick who represents people in parliament by deploying their cadres from other parts of the country who have nothing in common with the coloreds and whites who live in Cape Town, and that's who represents them, who do you think they're going to answer to? The voters or the party that put them in position and expects them to pay the party back? That's not democracy. That's ruled by a political party, not by the people. And the South African party list system is corrupt, and it needs to go. It needs to go. Nobody voted for Cyril Ramaphosa to be president. Well, that's not true. That's not true. Members of parliament voted for him, but that's not the people. The Hawk, Texas, okay. Direct elections will replace all political parties that do not support it. Yeah, I think you guys are talking about the same thing I'm talking about. Thank you. Appreciate your candor. Well, thank you, kilometers per hour. It's my pleasure. It's my candor. I hope you found it useful. If you vote, you're a citizen. You will remain a slave rather than become people. I don't understand, Errol. I think you mean something there, but I'm not catching it. Janse van Rensburg says ANC waits for EFF to scream for something extreme issues scaring everyone and then implements a watered down version that they could not get past before. Yeah, there you go. That's actually a pretty accurate statement with what happens with ANC. Same with ANC. So, but if expropriation without compensation doesn't go away, then South Africa is doomed. In fact, the fact that they've allowed it to linger for so long has doomed South Africa's economy, because I'm not going to pour my money into a country in which it could be just taken by a government. In fact, now the South African government is now tabling legislation to limit the number of foreign nationals who can work in South Africa. Well, that's stupid. When you have people getting 30 on their matrix scores, you don't want them to be surgeons and doctors and engineers, structural engineers, or putting elevators into buildings that collapse because they're morons and they're uneducated and illiterate. You actually are hopefully getting talented, qualified foreign labor to replace that, since you're not bothering to invest properly in the education system. Yeah. Now they want to limit the number of foreigners who can come into the country. Yeah, that's not very egalitarian. Yep. Odez, the South African Alex Jones, pretty much controlled opposition as far as I'm concerned. Ooh, that's Jay Wheeler. Cool. For years, ANC did not manage to prosecute the corrupt cadres, but it takes them a couple hours to reban alcohol. Yeah, or ban tobacco. You know? Yeah, exactly right. Destroy whole sectors of the economy, livelihoods. It's really sad, ladies and gentlemen. Really, really sad. Oh, my thoughts on Herman Mashaba. Okay, so kilometer per hour. That's a good question. So kilometers per hour. Herman Mashaba, I thought, did a reasonably good job as mayor of Johannesburg. And I thought he was an up-and-coming member of the Democratic Alliance. And I thought that he was a fresh face, and that his background suited him well, and there were bigger things in his future, like being premier of Gauteng, and possibly, if the opposition ever won, becoming potentially president of the country. But Herman Mashaba, when Mmusi Maimane and his leadership team failed the DA miserably, and the party lost ground in the 2019 elections, he resigned. Not immediately. He should have resigned the next day as leader of the party because of that failure. We saw this in the UK with the last elections in which Boris Johnson and the Conservatives rolled over Labour. We did not, you see people that should step away, but they don't necessarily step away. Mashaba, after Mmusi Maimane starts this nonsense about, well, I was discriminated against, this, that, and that. Guy, you ran the party. You made the decisions. And you're telling us now after you leave the party? Come on. Mmusi Maimane, the same thing. Or not Maimane. Herman Mashaba, same thing. Herman Mashaba now, to me, has exposed himself as a political opportunist. He is a prostitute, just like Patricia DeLille. Pan-African Congress, unhappy, take my toys and leave. Independent Democrats, unhappy, take my toys and leave. Start with the ANC, Pan-African Congress, yada, yada. Join the DA, unhappy, take my toys and leave. Form my new party. Again, Patricia DeLille is a malcontent who wants everything her way. And Helen Zill's biggest mistake, I think, was bringing her into the Democratic Alliance. Herman Mashaba has now exposed himself as a political opportunist in the same light. People said you should have him on the channel. I'd love to have him on the channel, but I don't think he'd come on because I've said he's a political opportunist. Maybe he's not. Maybe he hasn't had a chance to share, but the things he said publicly are shameful. If that's really, attacking Helen Zilla. Helen Zilla was the head of the party when he came into the Democratic Alliance. She helped bring him into the party. And then he attacks her because it's politically convenient. And he plays this race game. So my view of Herman Mashaba is diminished greatly. Went from being a bright, shining star in a constellation to a tiny little white dwarf. That's what Herman Mashaba went to. Very disappointed, Herman Mashaba and Musi Maimani. They do no justice to South Africa. Robin says the stream was too early for me. Robin, the Night Owl stream will be in a few hours, so we're going to end here in a few minutes, but the Night Owl stream will be going on a little bit later, so you can come back for that. What do you know about General Conrad Villon? A fair amount. What do you want to know, Peter C? Is this in reference to 1994 and the new dispensation? His role in stopping or preventing a civil conflict with whites, or his role with the Freedom Front? Strong together, the best is the ANC called in German white engineers was to fix SCOM after they fired. Yeah, Strong Together, I made a video about that on the channel. I talk specifically about that issue and how that's just silly, so check it out. That's on the channel. That's one of my recent videos. Speaking of videos, let me check those out, guys, and see how things are doing very quickly. We'll share it before we wrap up this session on Stray Voltage. So my Sia Khaleesi video now on cutting up your Springbok jersey currently has, we're not quite at 24 hours. Okay, there. Ooh, it's taken off, still going again. 4,234 views. Thank you all so much for that. 22 hours and 4,200 views. That's a really good first day. Thank you so much for that. That's a 6-minute video and almost 300 hours of viewing time, which is good. The video that I did on the tobacco ban with the tobacco industry, in which there was a cameo by Herman Roos, has got 1,500 views, so thank you for that. That's not doing as well. It took off really well, but it's a good performance. The SCOM video, which I just alluded to, which is from the 16th of July, so not quite a week, that one is now up to 3,533 hours. And that actually got 74 subscribers to come to the channel. So thank you, 74, who subscribed to the channel after watching Arresting Failure at SCOM, Germany to the Rescue. So thank you so much for that. That was that one. Appreciate it. Let me get back to the dashboard there and see what's going on the channel here real quick before we wrap up. Well, folks, we have crossed the 5,700 threshold. Thank you so much for that, with some new folks joining during the stream. So 5,701 subscribers to Chris White Africa and 80 channel members. Thank you so much for that, ladies and gentlemen. And let me get back to that very quickly before I wrap up. I want to make sure they give credit where credit is due. So for memberships, we added Vihan has still not been a whole day. So Vihan, we got, hang on, where are we at? Come on. Okay, Vihan joined yesterday. Thank you so much for that. Shirley joined today, became 80th member. And Devlish also joined. Thank you also for joining, Devlish. That's awesome. So those two joined today. We're up to 80 members of Chris White Africa. And I don't think there are any super chats in the stream, were there? Let me check real quick. No, there were no super chats. We had a heck of a super chat thing going on last night. Boy, people were just competing each other. That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it immensely. Thank you. That was actually kind of fun. I love watching the zombie climb the Mahalisburg, folks. It's really kind of cool. Well, let me catch up on the chat before I wrap up, I should say, not wrap out. Wrap out, yeah. I'm the Sugar Hill Gang. What do you know about General? Oh, you already asked that question. We need community rule rather than common law jurisdiction. Louis says direct elections, legal mandate, and political parties have been ordered to present a plan of action within the next 2 years. I didn't get that from the legal case. What I got is that people could vote and not be on a party list. So I'm not sure how that works. I have to learn more about that case. Olaf says, to make socialism attractive, you have to make capitalism fail. Hippo Eyes is doing a fine job of it. Very sly guy. He looks very capitalistic, but actually trying hard to destroy it. True, true, true. Statutes. Thanks, Mr. Wyatt. We'll have a look. Thanks for your support in South Africa. You're welcome. Stronger Together. Hank says, did you see the Dutch video telling the truth about Nelson? I did see the video. I don't agree with what they did, Hank. I don't think that's appropriate. Doing that statues. Yeah, but anyway, I understand where they're coming from. But yeah, I did see the video. And they talked about Nelson Mandela. A lot of good graphics in there. I made some screen captures. I can use some of their slides later on. But yeah, I saw that, Hank. Thank you for sharing that. Thanks for your thoughts. Have a great night. Says Kilometer Sharon Westfall. U.S. has closed the Chinese consulate in Houston. Yeah, I mentioned that, Sharon. Maybe if you came in the stream late, I've talked about it a few times. We closed the consulate in Houston. How's the weather there today? Anton says the weather is fantastic. Anton is not that hot, but the humidity was quite high. So I went out to get the schedule, the inspection for my truck. So anyway, Martin's taking off. S.J. Wheeler says New World Order was a good wrestling faction. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to Stray Voltage here on this Wednesday, the 22nd of July, 2020. It's been a fascinating conversation. I enjoyed chatting with you all. Thank you for the questions. Really, the questions kept us busy. Didn't really get too much in the way of news. But we will be back with the Stray Voltage Night Owls edition at 9:35 South Africa, Botswana time, 3:35 Eastern Standard Time, right here on Chris White Africa, the Indaba Africa channel. So thank you all for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Variable decisions are late again. We'll come back at 9:35 Variable Vision, then you'll be right on time. Anyway, thank you so much. Please go check out my videos. Catch the Sia Khaleesi video, which is trending very well this today. You can also catch my video on the tobacco ban in South Africa called Up in Smoke. Yes, with a nod to Cheech and Chong, because that's where the inspiration came from. Up in Smoke. You see, when people zol, they put the saliva on the paper. Anyway, so you enjoy that Up in Smoke video as well as the Sia Khaleesi video from yesterday. And if you want to go back and check out my videos from a few days ago, they're also there as well. So thank you so much for that, folks. We will see you again in about 2 hours and 3 minutes. Thank you for your time and your patronage here on Chris White Africa. God bless, and I'll see you folks in just a little while. Let me get to my closeout video. Here we go.